Welcome to FOST. I'm your host, Aaron Flores. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Just giving you a prelude to what we're going to have in store for Saturday at 6 p.m. We're doing our first broadcast for the NFL season off of FOST. You know, I am actually happy. We've been doing this for almost 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer, and just feel so excited about the upcoming football season. Um, just want to thank the fan base. We have 379 followers at this particular time. Hopefully, looking to get to that 1K this year, you know, and break this open so that we can get more views and get more resources in so we can make this FOST one of those um, podcasts that you must have. How about that? For those that don't know, FOST stands for Fans Only Sports Talk. We are not, professionals. We're just fans talking about the sports that we love. Any music or anything that you hear, we do not have copyrights of. So I just want to put that out there so anybody don't want to sue us. Put that disclaimer out there. And also, it'll just be me on today talking with you. Just to, like I said, it's a prelude to what is about to happen on Saturday. We're going to get into some things that happen in the NFL and what we as fans are looking out to see and what's going to happen, our predictions when it comes to, um, who's going to win, things of that nature. I think last year, Erica Wright was the winner of the picks. Kudos to Erica. It was beautiful to see that someone else won besides our two-time winning Charles Becker, which he'll be on. The whole crew will be on the first, and then we'll have segments throughout the season, just one-on-ones with some of the other staff that's here on FOST, just talking about their thoughts of what they're seeing in the NFL. Also in other sports too. We're talking about NBA, we're talking about baseball here and there, but our main focus here on FOST is the NFL season. And it is very interesting to see how this season will progress after seeing my boys, the Philadelphia Eagles, winning the Super Bowl. And could they sustain that same kind of drive and energy that they had last year to go back to a Super Bowl? We'll talk about schedules. We'll talk about, like I said, the trades moving and shaking, how people got injured, which quarterback is starting, things of that nature that'll help our fans get a very broad view of what is going on in the NFL. So I thank you for coming out today just to get a prelude of it. Some of the stuff that we're talking about is like drama that's in the NFL. We see Keenan Allen and his thoughts. I'm gonna put this up on screen real quick, and you see how his thoughts about Caleb Williams. I would love. We'll probably dive into that more on Saturday when I have the rest of the crew with me. It's interesting to see his thoughts and how he viewed Caleb Williams in Chicago. Now we know that Keenan Allen is back in with the Chargers, and the Chargers look pretty good when you look at that receiving roster. I think we'll talk about that even more too on Saturday. We talk about injuries all the time. You see that Kuhn had an injury that was, I think, maybe season ending, because when you talk about torn ACL and MCL, some people don't come back until next season. So I'm hoping him for a speedy recovery. He will be missed. And my boy CJ Gardner-Johnson, who torn his ACL. We're going to talk about more in detail about that too. I expect great things from CJGJ due to the fact that he played for the Philadelphia Eagles. He brought that energy, he brought that vibe, he brought that tenacity, and a lot of us don't think of CJ Gardner-Johnson as one of those mild-mannered players. He's one of those players where you go and say, hey, he's going to bring some fire and grit. And he does. He just does. And he backs it up. Like, you got to look at this young cat and say, hey, he backs up what he says. So CJ Gardner-Johnson, hopefully you'll have a speedy recovery, because that team is going to need you. And we talk about the Micah Parsons situation. Is, you can't have a podcast talking about sports without talking about the Dallas Cowboys. For some reason, either their play sucks or they have drama in the locker room. That's the way I view it. But Jerry likes to bring a lot of attention, a lot of entertainment to the locker room and to the Dallas Cowboys. It is what it is. That's all I can say about that. But as I got it up on the screen, talking about the Micah Parsons trade, he wants to be traded. And I think this was coming down the line sooner or later, so it is not a surprise. But for some reason, I think he's going to stay in Dallas, because Jerry is probably going to make a way for him to stay in Dallas. That, and this is his routine. Jerry likes to wait to the last minute to pay people, and we've seen it last year. We've seen it with Dak. We've seen it with CeeDee Lamb. We've seen it with Ezekiel Elliott. So this is who Jerry is, man. I mean, when you look at it, push come to shove, Jerry Jones is a businessman. And so when you look at the Dallas Cowboys and the stadium and all that's wrapped up with Dallas, it is more so a business kind of atmosphere. They would love to see Dallas win Super Bowls instead of having so much drama in series. But if you ever want to make a movie, you can definitely make a movie about the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, an owner that just has to have the limelight. They bring in coaches that really don't have no say-so. They bring in GM. Well, he is the GM. The CEO and the owner is the GM too. And just doesn't want to relinquish that power, and so that shows me that Jerry has a control fetish, where he got to control every little thing instead of just running the business and letting other people do their jobs. And so, instead of us talking about the players, we talk about the owner, and all the attention go to the owners. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he's doing a psychological thing that causes us not to look at the players, and the players don't have to talk as much because he's always in the limelight of the Dallas Cowboys. And if that's the case, then that's taking attention off of what is the players to Jerry Jones. And kudos, maybe that is working, or maybe it's not working. All I know is Dallas is always going to be a brand that they, quote unquote, is America's team, even though they haven't won the Super Bowl in 30 years. But that might change this year. If you ask any other Dallas Cowboy fan, like Shaquille O'Neal says that his Dallas Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Okay? And I mean, as a fan, we expect to say that all the time. Our team is going to win the Super Bowl. Our team is going to win the Super Bowl. I'm a realistic Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I get it. I get it. We just won the Super Bowl, so I have something to talk about. But in the same token, um, realistically, realistically, how many teams out there has ever, repeated and won the Super Bowl is very few. And I understand. I'm happy that I got the chance to see Philadelphia win two Super Bowls, and that's great. I would love to see them win many more. But the realistic part of this is this: the NFL is a business, and some of the teammates that you have will not be there next year. It's not going to be the same team as last year. And so, with that being said, I understand the nuances of where we may fall short and we may not, um, get to a Super Bowl this year. And with the schedule that the Philadelphia Eagles may have, let's be realistic. It is one of the hardest schedules in football. And you expected that because they won the Super Bowl. They do not have any back-to-back home games. They're home on the road, home on the road, or they're doing two road games back to back. So, and when you look at the last part of the season, Washington, Buffalo, Washington, you go and say, well, damn. Buffalo at the end of the season in week 17 in at 4:25 p.m. You're talking about snow. We saw, I think Smitty was in the cold. He's like, he ain't used to this. And Philadelphia probably is not the coldest city in the United States, but I don't think we do cold well. But we're going to talk about Michael Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys on Saturday. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about today, we will, get back to on Saturday. Oh, man, my boy retired. A lot of people have mixed emotions about Ndamukong Suh. Like, great player to me, just had some antics that was a little, too much aggression. Of course, did some antics that wasn't quite what you call football or sportsmanship antics. But he's retired. Kudos to Ndamukong Suh. What a force on the defensive line. I think he played for the Eagles for one season, and we didn't make it to the Super Bowl that season. It's not because of him, but Ndamukong Suh, let me not mispronounce his name. Nothing but respect for him. Nothing but, tenacity, aggression. That's what you were going to get every time this man stepped on the field. Sometimes it looked like he was unblockable dude. So, hopefully that he could get into broadcasting or into coaching to get some of these other young defensive linemen to actually step up to the plate and be a dominant defensive lineman. I think Ndamukong Suh can teach other defensive linemen, or hey, he might mess around and be a defensive coach. How about that, Ndamukong Suh? I would love to see that. And then we're going to talk about my boy Trey Henderson. Man, it is amazing. I'm just giving preludes. Like, this is a prelude because we're going to have conversations about this. It is amazing. Where is he going to go? Or is the Bengals going to keep him? Like, this is blowing my mind because due to the fact that this dude is good. This dude is really good for a team that has no defense. The only defense that you have, you're letting them walk out the door. And that kind of hurts, They paid T. Higgins, they paid Chase, they paid Burrow. I mean, that offense is loaded, but your defense, you gotta do something. I go back to old school where they say defenses win games. So if defense wins games, why aren't you getting the best defensive player and then adding to him? You know, I don't know where Trey is going, but if he does go, um, and I think that he will, what team would you like to see Trey Henderson in? That could be a question where you can ask on the comments, and I'll answer your comments as you type them in. But yeah, what team? What team do you think that he would prosper and get a Super Bowl win? That would be the question. Like, wow, what team will actually catapult themselves to put them in position? Now, I don't want them to go to Washington. I really don't want them to go to Washington. Wow, because that would be a tough task. But Trey, just want to know, bro, where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? Where you want to go? That's the next question. The next one is a shocker. Here we go. The Commanders are shopping running back Brian Robinson Jr. Jordan Schultz reports. Now, this is Jordan Schultz reporting this. The team listed Robinson as a starter on the depth charts, but has Austin Eckler, Jeremy Nichols, and Chris Rodriguez Jr. behind him. So I don't know if the Washington Commanders is shopping him due to the fact they're trying to make an agreement with Terry McLaurin, because I know McLaurin wants his money, which is deservingly so. But if he goes to another team like San Francisco, wow. That's all I can say is wow. What would be that would be interesting, because San Francisco just traded to get Deebo Samuels to Washington, and Washington would trade McLaurin to San Fran. Just a swap, basically. But yeah, Terry needs his money. TM needs his money. You know, he needs his money to be in the ATM. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't get it, yo. You take away Jaden Daniels' weapons instead of giving him. You gave him a weapon, but you're supposed to give him more weapons. Like, Terry is that dude. I mean, I get the age factor and all the other stuff, but Terry McLaurin is a guy that's going to produce for you. Work it out. Like, get a man 30, 40 million a year. You know, he deserves it. When y'all was garbage and your team was basically, you know, being undermined by a owner that really didn't care about the team or the players, and he was still there through it all. So look, give that man his flowers and pay that man, please. And like I said, that's all I have for the intro for FOST. Stay tuned with us, because we're going to be talking a lot about these trades, these teams that can dethrone the defending Super Bowl champion NFL Eagles. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a whole lot of chats about our thoughts, talk about the 10 quarterback rankings, where there was a lot of flack. If you ever want to make your podcast or your social media blow up, say something that is controversial. I just noticed that, and And what brings that up is because I was listening to Cam Newton talk about his thoughts on Jalen Hurts, and it got so out of hand. Like, it really did. It's like, everybody that does social media, does podcasts and things of that nature, they have their own opinion about certain situations. And it got so personal. Like, it went from Cam to Ryan Clark to Gilly. And I posted some of the stuff on FOST. You can look at some of the commentary on FOST page. Somebody's hitting me in now. It got so out of hand. And so when you really look at what they were saying, and as an Eagles fan, just gonna put this out here. As an Eagles fan, am I biased about certain things? Of course I am. Of course I believe certain things about Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles is, because that's my team. I love them. But in the same token, I gotta give them respective criticism. Okay. Now, what Cam was looking at with Jalen Hurts, he was basically talking about numbers. And I'm going to get into this real quickly before I end my segment here with FOST. All right. He was basically talking about the surrounding cast and what Jalen Hurts has. Okay. And, how productive he is with this surrounding cast, and most of these other quarterbacks don't have a star-studded team like the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. And not only that, I think he was also talking about the maturity level, and because it was no knock on Jalen Hurts. He apologized to Jalen Hurts for not what he said, but them making it more than what it needed to be. Because I think he truly respects Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, because he's saying that system that he's in is created, basically for him, but he has a lot of talent around him. Now, this is what I'm going to say as a fan looking in. I'm not a player, but as a fan looking in, a lot of teams had weapons. Like, you had Montana. Montana had Roger Craig. He had Jerry Rice. He had Taylor. He had a dominant defense. But Montana is known for winning those games. And he did have weapons on that 49ers team. When you look at Joe Burrow, he has weapons on the offense, but doesn't have weapons on the defense. So there's a mixture there, but he still averages about 4,000 something yards each year, and he was out sometime during the season. Okay, then we think about teams like Josh Allen. Last year, he probably didn't have nothing but one wide receiver, and he made those individuals look great. And so I always say that when we look at quarterbacks, we compare them to someone else that is doing very well. Okay, we compare Tom Brady to Joe Montana. We do the Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady, and now we're doing everybody else to Patrick Mahomes. Okay, and what I mean by that is this: Patrick Mahomes is the bar. So if Patrick Mahomes is the bar, Joe Burrow wouldn't be Joe Burrow because he beat Patrick Mahomes. This is the way I'm looking at it, and this is the way I think some of these ratings are happening, because what happens is what's been happening in these kind of rankings is they move the bar for certain individuals. Okay. Josh Allen did more with less. That's why we're posting him here. My boy in Baltimore, Jackson, Lamar Jackson. His stats is always there. Every year he performs great stats. He's always in the MVP talking, or top MVP votings. All right. When you look at him, he's missing Super Bowl. Okay. Then you look at Patrick Mahomes, which, like I said, is the bar. Has already won 3 Super Bowls, done it with a team, with a great team, done it without a great team. So he's throwing to people that was dropping passes and things of that nature. Okay. And then when you look at who else they had up in there, Joe Burrow, those are the 3. And you talk about Buffalo with Josh Allen, like I said. And Josh Allen hasn't made it to a Super Bowl, but his production with less, helped him catapult him to the MVP. Now, I was telling one of my other co-hosts here on FOST, I was like, Josh Allen, when he first started off, looked terrible. Let's be honest. That first year, or I think a year and a half, Josh Allen progressed to be one of those quarterbacks. Now, he beat Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, but he hasn't beat him in the playoffs. And so if we're saying the bar is Patrick Mahomes, meaning that who's the closest to Patrick Mahomes who has beaten Patrick Mahomes, that's the only reason we have these quarterbacks up there. And some of it is stats. When you look at Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, okay? Out of 4 of them, only one of them won a Super Bowl, if I'm correct. Yeah. Out of the 4 of them, only one of them won the Super Bowl multiple times. So that's why we put Patrick Mahomes there. And if he's the bar, only out of those 4, out of the other 3, let me put it like that, Joe Burrow is the only one that's been to a Super Bowl. Okay. Let me see. Josh Allen, he just can't get past Patrick Mahomes. We just noticed that he just can't get past Patrick, but yet and still he beat him in the regular season, but can't get past Patrick Mahomes to make it to a Super Bowl. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. And so if we're making Patrick Mahomes the bar, and we're saying, well, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback due to him winning Super Bowls, having MVPs, his stats, he is the bar, okay? Who other than Patrick Mahomes in the NFL right now that has been to the Super Bowl twice and won? Won. That part. And so when we look at stats, Jalen Hurts' stats when it comes to passing, they'd be like, oh, well, Jalen Hurts didn't pass that much. He didn't do, A.J. Brown was talking about how ineffective that he was when it came to the pass, and how he didn't pass the ball as much last season. He didn't have to. It wasn't a part of the system. And that's what I think Cam Newton was talking about. It's because that Philadelphia system is not orchestrated for him to pass 30 times a game, And plus, when you have an offensive line like Saquon Barkley, with Saquon Barkley in the backfield and the offensive line, a lot of that is due to, and I want to make this clear, Saquon is a beast, but you also got to worry about Jalen Hurts tucking it and running like he did in the Rams game. So, they complement each other. So you may not see as much as Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, but combined with his legs and throughout what he has done in his career, you know, you have to look at it in this type of sense. Yeah, everybody say all Jalen Hurts does is win. Now, since he's been a starter for the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is me being biased because this is my team, he's been to the playoffs every since he started as the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so when you look at Joe Burrow, you look at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, why can't he be in the top five? Because he does it with his legs sometimes, and he can do it with his arm. Does he need to do it with his arm? No, he doesn't. Not all the time. It's according to what team that they go against. They may, throw the ball. I want you to look at the Super Bowl. I want you to look at the Washington game. I want you to look at the Pittsburgh game when he said, is that what you want to see? Because it's according to what the offense or what the defense gives you. And so what Kellen Moore did was basically said, hey, this is this team's weakness. This is what we need to exploit. If they can't stop us on the throwing the ball, well, guess what? We're going to throw the ball. If they stop us on the run, we're going to throw the ball. If they can't stop the running game, we're going to run the ball. So you're looking in the factors, but if we have to do those things, he has the weapons to do them. Okay. When I look at that list and when I looked at the whole thing about Cam Newton and how things went down with that whole interaction, I had my thoughts. Some people said, well, Cam is jealous. Cam was one of the best. At one point, I wanted Cam Newton in Philadelphia. I ain't gonna lie. Because I just liked his size, his stature, and how he threw the ball. But in the same sense, you got to understand that Cam had his time, and I love the interview that he had with Jalen Hurts, talking about what he went through and what he expressed. That was beautiful. My thoughts is this: as commentators, as sports writers, or everybody has their own opinion. Okay, but if you want to be controversial, if you want people to start saying, "Oh man, he wrong," I can agree to disagree, but a lot of it becomes personal when you start attacking the person. And when you start attacking the person, of course, they're going to be indignant and start saying stuff that, basically going to hurt people's feelings. Or you're going to get in your feelings and then you're going to react. But it's something that Cam said. He said, I am box office. Meaning, look, he knows that this is entertainment. Entertainment, guys. Don't take it personal. Some of the stuff that I say on FOST about Aaron Rodgers, and I have not played a lick of NFL football. I played high school football. I played, basketball here and there. I played football, on the streets. But it's my opinion as a fan. Say whatever I want to say. Stop getting your panties in a bunch. Understand that these are people's opinions. And what I love about this whole scenario is this. Cam started something where I think it was Mike Tannenbaum said it on First Take, his list, and he took Jordan Love over the NFC, and everybody went haywire saying, hey, none of these, the people that's underneath him is better than him, and you don't even have Jalen Hurts on the list. So what did that do? That sparked attention to Tannenbaum. So Cam, you have lit a fire in other social medias, other podcasts, to other people, showing them how to bring entertainment or how to bring views to their media platform. And so, with that being said, Cam, I applaud you. Because due to the fact that, look, you're going to get paid, brother. Whether people agree with you or don't agree with you, you're going to get paid. Ryan Clark going to get paid. Whether they agree with Ryan Clark or don't agree with Ryan Clark, he's going to get paid. Stephen A. Smith, the stuff that come out of Stephen A. Smith mouth, oh my gosh. But he is one of the leading entertainers when it comes to ESPN. And one of the most highest paid commentators in the game. That man got podcasts for days. Been in soap operas. Been in movies. That's prolific. You know, when you start looking at people's sense of how they view things, that is their view. I mean, you can give some stats and you can say, hey, you know, this is why I believe the way it is, just like we do at FOST. You might hear us going back and forth talking about, no, man, that don't make no sense. Oh, that sounds stupid and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment. That's it. That's it. Now, my thoughts, you don't have to agree with my thoughts. Hell, you don't even have to listen to what I'm saying. There's a click button where you can be like, don't send or swipe left. You know, and you keep it as that. But what draws you in is because it's debatable. And this is what people want to hear. This is what people want to see. They want to hear debates. Like when Shannon Sharp was with your boy, I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. I see his face. I can't think of his name. And Chip. Yeah, Chip. I think it's Chip. And so they kept on debating about stuff until he made it personal, you know? And so Shannon was like, no, man, you ain't going to disrespect me like that. And so when we start making things personal, then guess what? Something's going to come out. Something's going to come out that's going to either be derogatory, hurt people's feelings, you know, you're going to get that smoke. But something's going to come out. And when it comes out, you are going to receive it or you're going to either come back, you know. And if you ain't snappy with it, guess what? You're going to look bad on the mic. You're going to look bad on the television. Just going to look bad. Don't open up something that you can't finish. That's all I'm saying. And so when you hear people going back and forth about their thoughts or their opinions or their idea of something, guess what? That's their idea. That's their thoughts. That doesn't mean it has to be true. The only thing that is true and factual is stats. And you can run the stats down and be like, hey, this is, if we're going by stats, this player is the best player, and this is why I chose him. Okay? But if we're going about straight opinions and how we feel, you know, this player shows tenacity, but he doesn't have the stats. He has the heart of a champion. He knows how to win. Guess what? Those are all great things to have in a player. It doesn't diminish him, but we feel as though that because he doesn't have the stats, it diminishes the player, or the player has so many weapons. My thing is with Jalen Hurts, in my belief, and I can be biased, and you can say so. He is a top 5 quarterback. Top 5 quarterback. Okay. And it could be because of the way I see him. Because when I first saw Jalen Hurts, and when the Philadelphia Eagles picked Jalen Hurts, I was not a fan. My brother, which will be on Saturday, Marlon Johnson, he said, man, I like this kid. This kid has tenacity. This is a great pick. This kid, this and that. And I was like, man, he got to prove it. And throughout the years, Jalen Hurts had won me over. I pray that Jalen Hurts will retire a Philadelphia Eagle and stay with the Philadelphia Eagles because of his work ethics, because of what he puts out on the field, how adaptable he is. And what I mean by that is because when you look at Jalen Hurts and you're looking at all the offensive coordinators that this young man has, I believe that Jalen Hurts can grasp a concept and go with it. And so when they say, well, can you see Jalen Hurts winning in another setting, in another team? Yes. It's not because of his numbers, what we're seeing in Philadelphia, is because of his tenacity and his wherewithal of understanding the game and his will and drive to be better every single season. That is why I believe he can go to any other team and still be dominant, because he knows how to lift players up. He holds them to a standard, and he's a part of the standard. Now, I'm not saying that you take him to a bum team like any bum team maybe that doesn't have a couple of weapons. I remember the year that he was in MPV votings before he got hurt. And he balled out. I think that was the year he went to the Super Bowl. The year before that, he did very well too. He was more so a running quarterback, but that was what was asked of him. If he didn't see something that he didn't like, hey, take off and run. So that's my opinion about it. When I hear commentators say, well, we could put Joe Burrow in that situation that Philadelphia has, and they will win a couple of chips, or we could put this person, that person in there. Yeah, but see, Joe Burrow has a situation where he has no defense. There's nothing wrong with Joe Burrow's offense. It's their defense. Get a man a defense, and you don't have to take him nowhere. Lamar Jackson. Y'all talking about Lamar Jackson, man, saying that Lamar is one of those individuals that just can't get there. Look, last year, I'm going to be honest. Andrews, if you would have just caught a couple of passes and caught that pass for the touchdown, guess what? We wouldn't be having this conversation. Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball, catch the ball, and run the ball all at the same time. And it also has to do with coaching. And what I mean by that is Lamar is only able to do but so much. Your coaching staff and your defense have to be in position to make plays. And so with that being said, You could put Lamar in any other situation. I think he was flourished too. It's coaching. Coach him up. Catch the ball. Do what you're supposed to do so other people don't have to doubt the quarterback. And the quarterback is only as great as the people around him. Let me echo that out. The quarterback is only as great as the people around him. Plain and simple. And so when you look at Cincinnati, defense is not around them. When you look at Baltimore, offense doesn't catch the ball when they need to at the right time. You look at Buffalo, coaching, they stopped running the ball. Then didn't give your quarterback any weapons. When you look at even Kansas City, and like I said, these is just my thoughts. This is my opinion. My opinion about Kansas City last year is referees was too kind to them. Was really too kind to them. Some of those games that they had won, it was like, come on, man. Are you serious? Are you serious? How is somebody so lucky? But whatever. All I'm saying is when you're doing this kind of podcast or whatever show, just be debatable, but understand what the facts is the facts. The fact is that some of these teams don't have the weapons or the greatness around them so that they can be great. Philadelphia last year was that team that was basically that team that was great. Now, what are we going to get that same team this year? I don't know. We done lost so many potential pieces, like great pieces. And when you win a Super Bowl, of course, people aren't going to want your players. That's true. Howie Roseman does a good job in collecting great players. And so when those things come up and when those things happen, guess what? We can finally say that the Philadelphia Eagles or your team or anybody else's team, Dallas Cowboys, has great people around them to make the team better. Terry Bradshaw, Fox Sports, speaks on Fox. Won 4 Super Bowls, I believe. 4 Super Bowls. Right? Had a dominant defense. Dominant. Had a nice core around him. Got lucky here and there. Is he not one of the greatest players or quarterbacks that's out there? Just want to put that in there when you start evaluating players. Now, Eli Manning, a lot of people be like, well, Eli had a great defense. He had some good players as his wide receivers and things of that nature. Eli took a 9, I think it was a 9-17 to the Super Bowl. Even though they had a good defense, a 9-17 he took to the Super Bowl. Not once, maybe twice. Do he not get credit for throwing the ball to Tyree? It was Tyree that made the catch with the ball on his helmet. Yeah, but somebody had to throw the ball to him. Somebody had to trust him enough to throw the ball to him. That's all I'm saying. We'll have more conversations and more debates later on Saturday. Please join us on August 23rd. I have put out some flyers. August 23rd, we will be having our first broadcast of FOST. All my counterparts will be in the house. Charles Becker, Erica Wright, Kai Bryant, Oldie But Goodie is coming back. Also, Wayne Wilson. Oldie But Goodie is my boy Marlon Johnson is going to be back in the house. And also, we're going to have guest speakers to come in, give their picks and give their ideas. If you ever want to come on the show or have any ideas that you want to talk about, hey, hit us up. We'll be happy to have you on the show on FOST. And I thank you for watching for today. Hopefully, prayerfully, I will see you on Saturday so we can talk about football, we can get into some debates, and we can also agree to disagree. God bless. Have a nice night. See you on the 23rd. Peace.